Annabelle had taken pictures of herself and Steve on the bed earlier. She had copied Tonia's number from Steve's phone and sent the pictures to her. Tonia was still crying when her phone beeped with an incoming message. She wiped her tears and looked at the screen. Her heart sank. The message was a picture of Steve and Annabelle lying on the bed together. Tonia felt like the world has come to an end. How could Steve do this to me? She thought. How could he betray my love and trust? Tonia couldn't stop crying. Her heart broken into a million pieces. She looked at the picture again, studying every detail. Steve's arm was around Annabelle, and she was smiling up at him. They looked like a couple. Tonia's heart was breaking. She felt like she'd been living a lie. She thought she had a happy marriage, but now she realized it was all a facade. She cried and cried, unable to stop. She felt like her world had been turned upside down. Tonia didn't know how she was going to get through this. Steve woke up at 4 a.m., feeling confused. He looked around and was shocked to see Annabelle sleeping beside him. "Why am I here?" Steve asked loudly, waking Annabelle up. Annabelle jumped out of bed, looking scared. "What happened? What am I doing here?" she asked, pretending to be confused. Steve looked at her angrily. "What did you do to me?" Annabelle smiled cunningly. "You don't remember? You were drunk yesterday. I helped you up here to sleep. You begged me not to leave you, and we—" She stopped, implying something Steve didn't want to hear. Steve's face turned red with anger. "Did what?" he asked, his voice shaking. Annabelle just smiled, enjoying the situation. Steve quickly realized he had made a big mistake. "You're a devil!" he shouted, grabbing his phone and storming out of the room. Steve was furious. He couldn't believe what had happened. He had no memory of getting drunk or begging Annabelle to stay with him. As he walked out of the apartment, he felt a wave of panic wash over him. What had he done? Had he really cheated on his wife? Steve quickly dialed his wife's number, but it kept ringing. He tried calling again and again, but Tonia wasn't answering. Meanwhile, Annabelle was smiling to herself as she watched Steve leave. She had planned everything perfectly. She had spiked Steve's drink with a sedative, making him vulnerable and disoriented. As Steve continued to try and reach his wife, Annabelle was already planning her next move. She knew that Steve would try to make things right with his wife, but she was determined to make sure that didn't happen. At work, Steve couldn't concentrate. He kept thinking about Tonia and why she wasn't answering his calls. During lunchtime, he couldn't eat, having no appetite for food. Steve knew Tonia would be angry with him for not calling her the previous night and not answering her call. He wanted to explain what happened and calm her down, but what Steve didn't know was that Annabelle had done a lot of damage. She had sent pictures of Steve and her together to Tonia, making it look like Steve was cheating. Tonia's friend Helen came to her house as soon as Tonia called her, crying uncontrollably. Helen knew something was seriously wrong. "Tonia, can you talk to me?" "What's the problem?" Helen asked, trying to calm her down. Tonia couldn't speak at first. But then she finally broke the silence. "Steve is living with another woman over there," she said, her voice shaking. Helen was shocked. "What? Did I just hear you well?" "Are you sure of what you're saying?" she asked, trying to process the news. Tonia explained everything to Helen, showing her the pictures Annabelle had sent. Helen's expression changed from shock to anger. "How can Steve do this to you after all you've done for him?" Helen asked, her voice raised. Your mother gave her life for Steve, and this is how he repays you. Helen couldn't believe what she was hearing. No, 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 I can't believe this, she kept repeating, trying to comfort Tonia. Helen paced around the room, shaking her head in disbelief. She could see the pain in Tonia's eyes, and it broke her heart. Tonia sobbed even more as she looked at the pictures again, as if hoping they would somehow change. But the truth was right in front of her. Steve had betrayed her. Helen sat beside her and held her hands tightly. Tonia, you have to be strong. You can't let this break you. But Helen, I gave him everything. I stood by him when he had nothing. I sacrificed so much for this marriage. And now, he's with another woman as if I never existed. Tonia cried. Helen sighed deeply, wiping the tears from Tonia's face. Listen to me, my friend. You are more than this pain. Steve may have betrayed you, but you cannot let his actions destroy you. You are a strong woman. Tonia sniffed and looked at her friend. But what do I do now, Helen? I feel lost. I don't even know how to move on from this. Helen asked Tonia, have you spoken with Steve? What explanation did he give you? But Tonia shook her head. No, I haven't been picking his calls. I don't need any explanation. The picture of him and Annabel on the same bed is evidence enough. Helen looked concerned. Tonia, please, just hear Steve out. Let him explain what happened. I know it's hard to believe. But sometimes there's more to the story than what we see. Tonia raised an eyebrow. You're taking his side? She asked, feeling a bit hurt. Helen quickly clarified, no, I'm not taking anyone's side. I just think we should hear Steve's explanation before we conclude anything. No one can be 100% trusted, but Steve has always been a good husband to you. Let's just give him a chance to explain. Tonia sighed, feeling a bit uncertain. Maybe Helen was right. Maybe she should hear Steve's side of the story before making any conclusions. When Steve returned back from work that evening, he dialed Tonia's number again, feeling restless. As soon as Tonia answered, Steve felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Honey, please. I know you must be angry with me for not calling or answering your calls, Steve said, trying to sound as sincere as possible. I took some wine and I don't know how I fell deeply asleep till this morning, Steve continued, trying to explain away his disappearance. Tonia remained silent for a moment, leaving Steve wondering if she was still angry. Then, in a calm but firm tone, Tonia asked, Steve, who is Annabel? Steve was stunned. How did you? What are you talking about? He stuttered, trying to process what Tonia was saying. Tonia, I swear, Annabel is just my colleague and neighbor. I don't know what she told you, but it's not true. I have nothing to do with her, Steve protested, trying to defend himself, but Tonia's words cut deep. You're my husband, Steve. I trusted you with my life. Is this how you repay my trust? She asked. Your girlfriend even sent me pictures. Steve couldn't believe what he was hearing. Pictures? What pictures? He asked, but deep down, he knew he was in trouble. Tonia's next words confirmed his worst fears. Annabel sent me pictures of you both cuddling on the bed. She told me she's your girlfriend. How could you do this to me, Steve? Steve took a deep breath and explained everything to Tonia. Annabel invited me to her birthday party. and they offered me wine. I drank it, and after that, I don't remember anything. I woke up this morning and realized I hadn't spoken to you, so I started calling you. Whatever Annabelle told you or the pictures she sent, it's not true. She's lying. She's not my girlfriend, and she never will be. I have a lovely wife like you, and I would never do anything to hurt you, Steve said, trying to convince Tonya of his innocence. Annabelle just wants to cause trouble between us. She's been trying to get my attention for a while now, but I've been ignoring her because I'm married. She's just trying to get back at me by manipulating you. Steve explained, hoping Tonya would believe him. Tonya listened to Steve's explanation, her reaction unreadable. Steve couldn't tell if she believed him or not. He waited anxiously for her response, hoping she would forgive him and they could move past this. Tonya's voice was laced with uncertainty. Are you sure you haven't betrayed me? Those pictures are too real to be false. Steve's voice was calm and reassuring. Honey, trust me, I can never betray you in this life. Just believe me and don't bother stressing yourself over this. You are my wife, and I love and cherish you. I want to trust you, Steve, Tonya said, but those pictures. It's hard for me to shake off the feeling that something is wrong. Steve's voice was filled with conviction. Honey, I swear to you, nothing happened between me and Annabelle. She's just trying to manipulate us, to drive us apart. Don't let her succeed, my love. Tonya took a deep breath, and Steve could sense her resolve strengthening. I love you, Steve, she said finally. I love you too, darling, Steve responded, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. We'll get through this together, I promise. Annabelle was taken aback by Steve's sudden appearance. She had been expecting him to be angry, but she hadn't expected him to confront her so boldly. Annabelle, Steve said, his voice firm but controlled. This is the last time I'll be warning you. Stay far away from my family, especially my wife. She's the last person you should mess with. Annabelle felt a shiver run down her spine as Steve's eyes bored into hers. She had never seen him so angry before. From today onwards, avoid me with all your strength, Steve continued. The next time you mess with me again, you won't like the outcome. Annabelle felt a surge of fear mixed with admiration for Steve. She had never met a man who stood up for his family like that before. And yes, I'm still in very good terms with my lovely wife, Steve said, his voice dripping with pride. And even an aunt like you can't break the bond we share. Annabelle was stunned. She kept staring at Steve, her eyes wide with wonder. She had never seen a man so confident and so in love with his wife. For a moment, she forgot about her scheme to break Steve's marriage, and she felt a pang of regret. Steve stood up, his eyes still fixed on Annabelle. Remember, this is a warning. Don't make me come after you again. And with that, Steve turned and walked away, leaving Annabelle feeling stunned and impressed. She had underestimated Steve, and she realized that she had bitten off more than she could chew. It was 6 months already after the last incident. Annabelle had tried before, but her plans had been foiled every time. This time, she was convinced she had the perfect scheme. Annabelle had gone out and bought a tummy pump, the kind used to simulate a pregnancy belly. She put it on, adjusted it to make her look 6 months pregnant, and took a picture. She felt a thrill of excitement as she reviewed the photo, satisfied that it looked convincing. With a sly smile, Annabelle sent the picture to Tonya, accompanied by a caption that would surely cause trouble. I'm pregnant for Steve, Annabel waited anxiously for Tonia's response, hoping that this time her plan would finally work. She imagined the drama that would unfold, the fights, the tears, and ultimately, the breakdown of Steve and Tonia's marriage. Tonia stared at the photo for a moment longer, her lips curling into a cold smile. "She really thinks this is going to shape me," she muttered, tossing her phone on the bed. Her fingers drummed on the mattress as she looked around the half-packed suitcase in front of her. The countdown had begun, 3 weeks and she would be in the same city as Steve again. 3 weeks, and she'd finally come face to face with Annabel. Meanwhile, Annabel paced her apartment like a caged animal. She had expected more: panic, rage, maybe even a call from Steve. Instead, there was silence. Deafening silence. Her thumbs hovered over her phone as she considered her next move. Later that night, she messaged Steve together with the fake pregnancy photo. "I want to go see her the moment I land." "We will," he replied. "But remember, we handle this with class. Let her keep disgracing herself." A slow, satisfying anticipation began to build in Tonia. Let Annabel play her games. Soon, the stage would be set. Tonia finally joined her husband and their joy knew no bounds. Steve hugged his wife so warmly. "I have missed you so much, honey," Steve muttered. "I miss you even more," Tonia said. Later the next day, when Tonia has rested from the long journey and settled, she asked her husband to take her to see Annabel. She knocked on Annabel's door twice before she opened without knowing who was at her door. "You are Annabel, right? I'm Steve's wife and I think you should go get yourself your own husband and stop being a desperate bitch around mine. The next time I see you near my husband, I am going to pull off your wig and tear your entire clothes to pieces to show the world the bitch you are," Tonia said to Annabel and held her husband's hand as they walked back into their house. Tonia's words hung heavy in the air like a storm that had just broken. Annabel stood frozen at the door, stunned, her face a mixture of shock and humiliation. She opened her mouth as if to respond, but nothing came out. The door closed firmly behind Tonia and Steve, shutting out not just the sound, but any illusion of friendliness that might have once existed between them. Back inside, Steve looked at his wife, his expression a mix of surprise. "Honey. That was intense," he said, cautiously. Tonia turned to him. "I had to make things clear. She needed to hear it. From me." Steve nodded slowly. "I get it. I really do. And I'm glad you're here now. We're together. That's what matters." The tension in the room melted slightly as he pulled her into another warm hug, her head resting against his chest. Annabel stood by the window, her fingers trembling as she clutched the edge of the curtain. The silence in the apartment was suffocating, yet outside, life carried on: cars honking, children laughing, and the distant bark of a dog. None of it could drown out the turmoil inside her. She hadn't slept well in days, haunted by guilt. She hadn't meant for any of it to spiral this far. One bad decision led to another, until it all crashed around her. Now, every step she took in the apartment felt heavy. Like she was walking through a space that no longer belonged to her. Every mug, every photo frame, every echo in the hall reminded her of what she had done. Unable to face Tonia and her husband again, Annabel made the only choice that felt right. She had to leave. She packed slowly, and then, she opened the door. The hallway felt colder than ever, but it was the beginning of something: an end, a lesson, and perhaps one day, redemption. Later that evening, Tonia sat by the window, sipping a warm cup of tea, the sun casting a golden glow over the quiet street. Her heart had finally found some peace.